Welcome. Coming up this afternoon on the marketplace. Vice President Bawumia hails economic achievement and urges business confidence ahead of the 2024 election.
Our post-COVID growth rate is still higher than the growth rate he left us with without a global crisis.
Former President of Ghana Association of Banks, Alhassan Ndani, describes Ghana Revenue Authority as a hostile institution, questioning its mode of tax collection.
There are about 33 different taxes. We just have to rationalize it and give these very emerging capital or private sector people time to breathe.
Also, businesses as to maximize opportunities from the bilateral trade existing between the UK and Ghana.
Our economic relationship with Ghana is one of the most important pillars of our relationship. Bilateral trade currently stands at around £1.4 billion, and the majority of that.
This and more update coming to you in the next 30 minutes. My name is Winston Taki. Now let's bring you updates on the currency market now. And now to our first business story. Vice President and New Patriotic Party presidential candidate Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia commended his government's achievements in driving economic growth, asserting that it has outperformed the National Democratic Congress's NDC's performance. Speaking at the inaugural Ghana CEO Presidential Gala in Accra, Dr. Bawumia urged businesses to stay confident in Ghana's future despite recent global economic challenges. The Made in Ghana CEO Presidential Gala dinner brought together prominent figures to bridge the gap between political goals and business needs. Speaking at the event, Vice President and New Patriotic Party presidential candidate Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia highlighted the government's achievement in fostering sustainable economic growth.
It is worth noting that between 2013 and 2016, Ghana's GDP growth averaged 3.9%. During our first term, this 2017 to 2020, GDP growth increased to an average of 5.3%. Following COVID and the global shutdown, Ghana's GDP growth has declined to an average of 4.74% between 2017 and 2023. So our post-COVID growth rate is still higher than the growth rate he left us with without a global crisis. Agricultural GDP growth increased from an average of 2.9% between 2013 and 2016 to an average of 4.5% between 2017 and 2023. And I must just add that Ghana in the whole of Africa now is the third highest food secure country on the continent.
Lawyer and executive chairman of AB and David Law, Ofosu Date, underscored key issues missing from the political party manifestos.
The first is unity. No divided people can progress. It's never happened anywhere. It's our divisiveness that led us into slavery and colonialism for 400 years. 200 for slavery and 200 for colonialism. And we seem not to have learned much from that. Everything divides us. Multi-party democracy, which was meant to be a set of ideas that we compete about, has ended up dividing us so much that everything becomes politics. I'll give just one example. Is IMF good or bad? I have no position on this. But I wish that as a nation we can unite around whether IMF is good or bad. And if it is good, then we all agree on how to go to IMF. If it is bad, then we all agree why we shouldn't go to IMF. It does not really sit well with me when every party in opposition says IMF is bad, and every party in government says IMF is good, even though we have gone there 17 times. Business is business and must not be treated as politics. And on this score, I recommend that state-owned enterprises be made to run as businesses.
Dr. Daniel Macaulay, Executive Chairman of the McDonald Group of Companies, advocated for a deliberate focus on strengthening indigenous businesses.
Government policies had really not helped the private sector. Many a times it looks like we don't support our own. I have tasted it, I have slept with it, and I'm living with it. And it's quite dangerous and difficult. I always try to be honest with my business. It's about time we build strong indigenous businesses. If Ghana will have 10 top businessmen, how much did we pick from IMF? My business can generate government $3.2 billion every year. Is government looking at me straight? If you build 5 of my businesses and you want to go to IMF, you can call McDan, you can call Margin, you can call the rest. It's happening in Nigeria, backdoor.
Founder of the CEO network, Ernest de Graft Ejiri, together with the Business Council of Ghana, signed a social contract committing political parties to uphold their promises to the business community.
We have signed a social contract today with 7 commitments and 2 outcomes as we become the Business Council of Ghana to help anyone who emerges as the president of Ghana. I believe this is a great commitment. On behalf of the CEO network, we also want to present this thank you to the Vice President of Ghana.
A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
The Ghana CEO Presidential Gala Dinner served as a platform to connect with key decision makers to influence, enhance brand visibility, and drive sustainable growth through strategic networking and accountability. So Vice President Mahmoud Bawumia has officially launched Ghana's credit score system aimed at transforming Ghana's financial economy by providing lenders with adequate and reliable data on borrowers. The Vice President in his address said the new system will reduce the rate of non-performing loans and improve equal access to financial markets. Dr. Bawumia expressed optimism that the new credit score will benefit small and medium-sized businesses. The following report has more.
Assessment framework aims to enhance our financial institutions, evaluate credit worthiness, expanding access to loans and financial services essential for both personal and business growth in Ghana. At the launch, Dr. Bawumia expressed optimism, noting that this framework would improve access to Ghana's financial market and contribute significantly to the economy growth.
Results from the My Credit Score pilot demonstrate a stark improvement, achieving an NPL ratio of less than 4%, a remarkable contrast to the national average. By enabling a fairer and more consistent evaluation of credit worthiness, My Credit Score is expected to reduce defaults significantly, strengthen confidence among financial institutions, and expand access to credit for individuals and businesses alike. The initiative reflects a broader commitment to sustainable economic growth, where financial stability and trust in credit practices play foundational roles.
CEO of Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications endorsed the system.
What this would do is that it would open up the whole informal sector as well. People who in the past were not able to get access to credit would be able to get access to credit.
John Ewa, CEO of the Ghana Association of Bankers, highlighted that the new system will boost banks' confidence in lending.
We get asked as banks that, oh, why am I having this high interest rate? Why is my credit delaying? Why is the default rate so high?
It is because banks do not have any means of having a full.
Now, the former president of the Ghana Association of Banks, Alassane Ndani, has described the Ghana Revenue Authority as a hostile institution as he questions its mode of tax collection. The former president of the Ghana Association of Banks maintained that the authority has not been helpful in encouraging businesses to meet their tax obligations.
I would like to see maybe in the new government that people, we phase out the programs, phase out all those programs, push the social programs maybe 2 years back and give the private sector space to recover. If we come in with any new tax measures, we don't simplify and indeed merge and delete some taxes that, the last time I was speaking to a business, they had 33 different taxes. There are about 33 different taxes. We just have to rationalize it and give these very emerging capital or private sector people time to breathe and so that you can at least continue to tax them.
We are now joined on Zoom by tax analyst Timboy Francis for more updates. Welcome to Marketplace. Now, Timboy, do you agree with Mr. Ndani's assertion and the way he spoke about the GRA activity towards some businesses in the country in reference to tax collection?
Concerns are, appears that they collaborate other concerns that we have received. You remember when the finance minister was inaugurating the new GRA board, one of the tasks he gave to them was that they should investigate the reports of harassment of taxpayers. Again, the CEO of GIPC, UFI Grant, also said the same thing in September. So it appears that these are legitimate concerns that the business community is having towards the way the GRA is going about their statutory obligations. Yes, we know that the GRA did not pass the law. However, they are supposed to ensure that the tax laws are complied with and they are supposed to collect the revenue. But I think that the way the key stakeholders are seeing them is different from the way the GRA is going about their own duties. They came out to refute those claims that they don't harass people. But I think that from hearing from key industry players like Dr. Ndani, it's a great concern that the Ministry of Finance and the GRA must set up and then see how they can re-engage the business community to iron out any differences that they may have. Other than that, we are not building a good trust in the tax system, which will affect the overall fiscal health of the economy.
Francis, do you hold the view that GRA was unnecessarily harassing some businesses in terms of tax collection?
I think so far the reports we have received it is something that may be true. I have not conducted any research like that, but you have people like UFI Grant, who is the CEO of GIPC, coming to tell the public that he has foreign investors who are saying that they don't like the way the GRA is treating them. Then it's a great concern. And we saw some time ago, which we all believed that it was going down. You remember the Kumasi importers were saying that when they get to the highway, the customs officials allowed them to offload all their containers and then reload them. These are not business-friendly approaches. So I think that if industry is really complaining, the best is to bring them together. We used to have what we call the tax dialogue, somewhere 2017, 2018, but all of a sudden the thing has disappeared. At that forum, the Ministry of Finance, the GRA, and taxpayers, and even experts, they deliberate on the best approach to raise revenue. How do we implement this law that Parliament has passed? And I think that these are some breakdowns in the tax administration system that we need to go back and pick it up so that we can ensure trust. If people know that these are the taxes they are supposed to pay and legitimately they are supposed to pay it, I don't think that they will be complaining about it. But if we adopt a more aggressive approach, it will break down the trust. We know that there's so much pressure on GRA to bridge the deficit gap, especially in an election year. However, it needs to be done more professionally so that the taxpayers that you intend to tax, they trust the system and they'll be able to comply in a more voluntary manner.
Francis, the GRA has asserted that their method has so far yielded results, seeing in revenue boosts considerably. What other method would you say should they have adopted could have equally given them similar results?
Winston, but you see, you don't try to achieve one goal by destroying the other. If you are using a hostile approach, as the business community is saying, and you are just focusing on results, you'll be killing the businesses. I will recommend a more engaging approach. You see, the GRA has so much power. So if you go and people are not complying with the law and they are being recalcitrant, you can easily even prosecute them. They even have the power to even publish the names. So we should not just be focusing on collecting at the same time, trying to embarrass and kill the businesses that will go back again to collect. I think that even though we are increasing revenue from the tax collection, it must be done in a more friendly manner where people are not complying. Apply the law, take them to court. And indeed, even the law allows you to collect 30% of any dispute before you even hear them in court. So these are tools that the law have made available to them. I think that if what Dr. Ndani and Yofi Grant and all other business community stakeholders are saying, we should change the approach and be a bit friendly.
Finally, Francis, would you have said a digitalized tax structure would have been a key solution to this matter? If it wasn't, what would you say would have been, basically?
Of course, a more digitalized administration is what everybody is now pushing. You remember nowadays, everything is sold online. And if your systems are digitalized, people cannot avoid the tax. They can't evade it. So it's a gradual process. We rolled out the EVAT system, which was going to bring a lot of taxpayers on board. We admit that there are challenges, but it is an ongoing process. In spite of the inability to fully digitalize all our tax system, I think we should still adopt the approach where it becomes more favorable to both stakeholders, both GRA and then the taxpayer.
Francis Timboy, we are grateful for your time here on The Marketplace. So we're touching on the tax conversation. Now, we're moving to another very incisive story. The British High Commissioner to Ghana, Haret Thompson, highlighted that the bilateral trade between the UK and Ghana currently stands at £1.4 billion, with the majority of this trade stemming from Ghanaian exports. The UK-Ghana Trade Partnership Agreement allows Ghana to access the UK market without duties or quotas, creating a significant opportunity for Ghanaian businesses to expand. She shared these remarks during an interview on AM Exclusive on Joy News.
With Ghana is one of the most important pillars of our relationship. Bilateral trade currently stands at around £1.4 billion, and the majority of that is exports from Ghana to the UK. We want to see that grow. We want to see it grow in both directions. There's a trade partnership agreement that should be supporting that growth in bilateral trade. People aren't making as much use of it yet as they could be. It provides for duty-free, quota-free export of everything apart from arms and ammunition from Ghana to the UK. And Ghanaians can import duty-free and quota-free many products, including machinery, including manufacturing equipment, chemicals, metals, all these products that can help with the growth of that value-added part of the economy here in Ghana. So there's lots more that we can do with that. And we have in common with the government of Ghana that commitment to building the private sector, to building the relationships between the private sectors in our two countries, and with that seeing the jobs come through and seeing the economic growth come through in both of our countries.
Show business or marketplace. Today we will focus on some of the biggest shifts and trends transforming the entertainment and media industry. We are exploring the topic of shifting power dynamics with independent platforms, the rise of platforms like YouTube, Patreon, and even locally grown platforms is giving artists and creators the power to bypass traditional media channels. But what does this mean for the African entertainment industry? Joining us now is my colleague, culture journalist Kenneth Awache-Dako, who has been tracking the influence of independent platforms on Africa's creative industry. Hello, Ken. It's good to see you.
Winston.
Great. What do you make of the emergence of the independent platform, basically in Ghana and possibly across Africa?
So it is something that is very good, like you mentioned. It is something that is giving a lot of creators, both in the entertainment and other spaces, the opportunity to be able to reach audiences beyond what they could have done initially. I mean, at first, when social media wasn't that big, you'd find that a lot of creatives who wanted to get their work out there will have to contact traditional media platforms, such as what we are on at the moment, to be able to get that sort of reach that they wanted. And that also came with some monetary, needs as well. So if you didn't have a big budget to be able to fund a very big promotional campaign, it's very difficult for as someone like a musician or a content creator to be able to reach a global audience. But with the inception of platforms such as YouTube and all those other digital platforms, they are able to go beyond the traditional media and use their own, strength to be able to meet the demands when it comes to the audience needs. Or however, it doesn't come with any challenges. I mean, if you are talking about technology, you need some very basic necessities such as data. And from where we come from, it sometimes can be very, it can be very expensive to purchase data as well. So connectivity is a big issue when it comes to that area. And also when it comes to the creation of the infrastructure for them for content creators to be able to put their work out there, that's another thing. And also monetization is something that globally is being taken advantage of. But when it comes to Africa, the scene when it comes to monetization is quite still on the rise gradually, and people are finding ways around it. Those who have found a way to, make use of it are reaping the benefits immediately. There are others that are also learning from that.
About the monetization bit, many also ask whether we local Africans or Ghanaians who are now creating the monetized platform, will it get to a point where they can sustain the platform, especially consistently paying the artist his due?
So in Africa, yes, and in West Africa to be precise, monetization is still something that is now gaining grounds. Elsewhere, it is well established, but because of the lack of frameworks when it comes to revenue collection in the creative space, it is very difficult for creatives here to earn their keep through digital means, even though they have their works on all those platforms. And that is where the challenge is. So depending on where you stand, it can be a challenge, it can be an opportunity. So those who have found a way around that are helping other people to get on board. But those who are also struggling in that area, I also advise to also use other channels such as merchandising and also, for instance, entering into brand deals with some of these companies to be able to get alternative sources of income apart from the immediate revenue that they're generating from their creatives directly. So apart from reaching a global audience, they're able to use these other mechanisms aside from monetization to be able to get their due, even though they work towards getting their monetization also in a very rigid way.
What do you make of those who want to be in control of how their product serves their customers or consumers? So like some who've decided to create their independent platforms.
It is also a very big deal, and it's a very important thing when it comes to telling your stories, first of all, because if you don't have your own platform, for instance, if you're in Africa, you don't control the platform if a movie streaming platform and it's not controlled by Africa or Ghanaians or wherever it is situated within the African continent, it is very difficult for you to tell your stories in the very way that you'd want the audience to receive it. International platforms will have their limits and their cultural differences, for which reason they may not want to allow certain values that you put in your content to be aired on their platforms. And that is where the opportunity comes in when it comes to platforms that are African owned. For instance, there is Iroko TV that's doing marvelous work in those areas as well when it comes to African content. There's also Showmax that's also doing a lot. So having indigenous platforms owned by the people also help for them, the content creators, to be able to reap a lot from the revenue when it comes to the revenue and the money side of things. Because you're on a business show, it is very important to understand that platforms that are owned by Africans and directed by Africans help them to also control the revenue collection. So they're able to get more from their platform against what they would have gotten if they were patronizing foreign platforms as well.
I think I am aware of Easy owning Empire platform, and is basically bringing his own artists and a lot of artists on that. And how do you assess the performance of that platform?
So it is also doing a lot of wonders for African creators. We've seen a lot of musicians, a lot of actors, and other content creators within the creative space come out from that. I mean, you've seen Nigerians, Ghanaians, some from other African countries who are also taking advantage of the platform to be able to, get the international appeal that they want, while also controlling the revenue, like we're talking about, because it's African owned and it's owned by someone who is in the space and is from Africa. Is able to understand the dynamics that are different, the different dynamics between the local, market and also the international market. It's able to create room for the differences and make sure that the revenue is being controlled in the right way.
Yeah, let's do this again on another platform, basically, and have more conversation on how to look at the economy of music. That is very interesting as well. Thank you so much, Kenneth. Kenneth, our Che Dako is my colleague here with Joy News. And we're going back to more news, basically on myjoyonline.com for more updates. Don't miss all our bulletins. My name is Winston Taki. Enjoy the rest of our bulletins. Bye-bye.